Well, I hope you've got your brackets ready to go. I've got mine filled out. You've got yours filled out.
Yes, sir.
So we had a little bit of time to do some research. The nice thing is when you live in Connecticut, you start off with a couple of pretty good teams when your teams get in.
Oh, we know that for a fact.
So should we start with that Western bracket?
Why don't we
for the
talk
men?
about the men first?
Yeah, okay.
In the West region, but the West, not even Western New York. They get to be in Albany to start things.
My hometown. There we go.
Wow. Now, see, that's something I did not know you were born in Albany.
Albany, Schenectady, Troy.
Oh, okay. You got 3 hometowns.
I move around a lot, yes.
Well, meanwhile, UConn's going to be there right in the middle of your screen, as you see there. UConn and Iona. That's the matchup, 4:30 Friday in Albany. Give me your thought.
Well, I mean, if you look at my bracket, I got UConn riding all the way to the end. So, you know, I know it's Rick Pitino, and there's a lot of buzz with that one, but I like the Huskies right out of the bat. I think the tough Big East schedule is, you know, the key for them.
I mean, I like UConn in this game, in particular because I think Iona's talented. And, of course, you have Rick Pitino, and in college basketball, coaching is extremely important. So you're talking about a Hall of Famer that Dan Hurley will have to match wits with. But this Iona team plays the same style that UConn does. They like the up-tempo. They're a physical team, and I think UConn is better in both of those areas.
Better players.
They have more talent to go up and down the floor. They're a little bit better in dealing with physicality than I think Iona is, and therefore I think this matches up well for the Huskies, and they'll be able to take care of business.
That game, by the way, is on TBS, not CBS. So
correct.
But you'll be there. We'll be having highlights and posting all that stuff.
Yes, we're going to be there Thursday to get the availability and find out what the Huskies and the Gales are thinking. That's an interesting 2 games there, because UConn will take on, the winner of the UConn-Iona game takes on the St. Mary's VCU game. You have, I believe for the first time in NCAA tournament history, you have 2 Gales in the same little region there, because St. Mary's is Gales and so are Iona.
So if that's how you pick your brackets on girls' names, you're golden. You're already in.
Well, Gales would be
it's a GAE, right?
Yeah, I think they're the Nordic Viking type of.
So the next game for them is I've got them advancing.
I have them playing St. Mary's, but VCU is an extremely talented defensive team. But St. Mary's, one of those old teams. That's out of the West Coast Conference. If people aren't familiar, Northern California. They play in the same conference that Gonzaga plays in, and they're perennially the second best team in that league, and they lose, and in fact they lost in the conference tournament final to Gonzaga after beating the Zags during the regular season. So this is an older team, a veteran team, a team with a lot of Europeans. Their head coach Randy, and his last name is out of my mind at this moment.
It's never been in mine.
But he recruits a lot of European players, Australian players from down under in New Zealand as well. So they're a veteran team. They're very experienced and talented squad. It's going to be a tremendous game on Sunday if the Huskies get there.
What do you have going on there?
And then I have them winning and taking on.
I have them winning and taking on
the top seed, Kansas.
Me too. I'm also there.
Right, and of course Bill Self just out of the hospital after a procedure, and so they expect him back now, which is good news. And they're the defending national champs. Consensus: they're not as good as they were last year, but certainly very good and talented, and a 1 seed playing in the toughest conference in the country.
In a good conference like the Big East, so. They're going to be battle tested, no doubt. But I've got them beating Kansas.
I do not.
You do not. So
I do not.
You've got them done on Sunday.
No, done in the Sweet 16.
Okay, so going to Las Vegas, by the way, which is where the next round would be.
Yes, Vegas and that's a Thursday, Saturday matchup out in Vegas a week from when this is airing.
So you've got UConn done
against Kansas in the Sweet 16.
I've got them winning and then playing Gonzaga.
Okay, and I have UCLA coming out of that little portion of the bracket, beating Gonzaga, and that would be, if those two meet up in the second round. That's a rematch of the semifinal from 2 years ago, when Gonzaga won on the buzzer beater in the Final Four.
And Gonzaga was number one, one of 7 teams that were number 1 this year, so they have been number 1.
Yeah,
They're solid. They've
Drew
got
Timme.
veteran team.
Yeah.
But again, I'm going to ride the UConn bandwagon. I've got them beating Kansas, beating Gonzaga, and then getting to the Final Four.
In Houston.
Yes.
Well, a lot of people like that. This is a team built to play in these games.
Yep.
A tough loss for UConn on Friday in the Big East semifinal. Marquette is a 2 seed. Yeah, 2-point game. Certainly, obviously goes either way. They're capable of beating anybody. They're capable
of losing
to almost anybody.
Right.
They need to shoot decent to keep their offense balanced. They don't need to shoot lights out,
right,
from 3 and from the perimeter, but they can't shoot 28%.
And they're going to need
to win these big games.
Andre Jackson Jr. to go more than 2 points, 1 rebound, and 2 assists. He's their go-to guy.
Their depth will be a key factor. They have bigs with Donovan Clingan backing up Adama Sanogo. So I think depth is going to be a big key. The games get possessions become a little more valuable in the tournament because teams tend to slow down a little bit, although I do think it's going to be that first game against Iona is going to be up and down the floor.
So I'm semifinals. I've got UConn all the way to playing Texas. Who do we have coming out on that top half?
Well, on the top half, I have Miami coming out of that.
I've got them losing to Texas.
I have them beating I have Texas A&M in Miami in the Elite 8 game in the Midwest.
All right.
What's interesting in that bracket, just for a minute, is in the second round, you could have arch rivals Texas and Texas A&M play.
Yep.
And I mean, they're fierce rivals. They're not in the same conference anymore because Texas A&M moved to the Southeast Conference, although they will be soon when Texas rejoins them in the SEC. But right now, they don't play, they don't like each other, and that'd be a wonderful second-round game.
And, with that, in Houston, Texas is going to be right. I think they're 2.5 hours away. Austin from Texas, they'd have a home court there. But I've got the UConn and Texas on that side of the bracket.
So you have UConn beating Texas,
yes,
2 hours from Texas campus.
I do.
Wow. That's interesting. That they will definitely be the underdog, certainly in the crowd's mind, because, as you said, they're close. But that would be very interesting to see. I think UConn can get there. I don't think they will, but certainly capable, and a lot of people think that. What about the other side?
Yeah, look at the other side. I mean, Bama, who UConn, by the way, beat earlier this year,
right,
#1 team in the country. I've got them coming all the way through, getting to the final. And on the bottom side of that, I know you're not high on Purdue. I've got Purdue, also a team that was #1. So I'm really riding chalk a lot of this tournament.
I think Purdue is good, but they have a freshman backcourt. They have Zach Edey, who's the player of the year, probably, most likely, and he's tremendous. But I think you give him his points. A young backcourt for Purdue, 2 freshmen, is going to be difficult for them to get through this tournament. I have them losing the second round to Memphis in a stunning upset. That's probably my biggest upset. Would be Memphis there. I have in that bracket in the East, I have Duke playing Michigan State in the final in the Elite 8. I'm a big Tom Izzo guy. His teams always play well in a tournament. They're prepared for it. I think they get there, but lose to Duke in the tournament, in the regional final. I also have Providence getting to the Sweet 16. I have Providence beating Kentucky. I have Providence beating Kansas State. I like Ed Cooley in the way he gets his team prepared. The Big East is a tremendous league at the top half. It's very, very good, the top 5 teams, and that really prepares you well.
Well, that's why I have Marquette and Creighton in the Elite 8. I've got them both, that's my Big East prejudice showing. That's who we see the most of around here. We know they're good teams. So I've got Marquette. I had Providence winning, but then losing to K-State. Marquette advances, and then Creighton getting bounced out by Bama, but getting all the way to the Elite 8.
Well, I think I agree with you that the Big East is at the very, very top. The first 5 teams, and obviously UConn right there with them. I think Xavier. I have Xavier getting past into the Sweet 16,
Yep.
getting past Iowa State, another team that UConn defeated earlier in the season. And if UConn obviously plays the way it did at the beginning of the year, going 14-0 to start things and ranked number 2 in the country, if that UConn team is there, yeah,
well, I think they will
very few teams can beat them, and they, you have it right there, winning the national championship.
UConn winning the whole thing. Who do you have winning the whole thing?
I have UCLA
Wow.
winning the entire thing, and it's just the way it kind of matches up. If they were in a different bracket, I might see UCLA losing in the second or third round. I have UCLA against Arizona. Maybe I'm a Pac-12
You are. You're
guy.
home.
So maybe my prejudice is showing there. But those two teams have actually played 3 times, fabulous games. It would be a very entertaining final should they make it there. But I have Arizona beating Duke in the Final Four, and I have UCLA beating Miami in the Final Four to get that pairing.
All right, let's check out the women. The UConn women didn't get the number 1 seed, but with some of the problems they've had. But we're looking, early on. They're playing in Stores. On Saturday, they win. I'm predicting now. In fact, I've got them going to the Final Four. Due diligence right now. Final Four. But they open with Vermont on Saturday. We're still waiting for the time of that game as of this particular live show.
Right. I agree with you. I think they're getting to the Final Four. This bracket does not strike fear in me, nor would any bracket strike fear, I think,
right.
in UConn. But Virginia Tech is the 1 seed, and while they have had a tremendous year, I don't think that they have the talent to match up with UConn. I like UConn there. Now, Baylor and Alabama are pretty good in that 7-10 game. That's people say, oh, there's no difference between being a 1 seed or a 2 seed. There's a difference.
Yes.
Because your second game is often very, very difficult. And I think Baylor and Alabama as a 7-10 matchup for UConn, if it were on a neutral court, might be extremely difficult. But we're looking at the men's tournament here. We're talking about things on the women's side.
Yeah, let's go over it. If we can get that bracket up, that'd be great. But we don't need it at the moment. But,
right.
But so I have Ohio State beating North Carolina, and then UConn, Ohio State in that second game Sunday afternoon in Stores.
Yeah, well, that would be the Sweet 16.
Yep.
Baylor and Alabama's winner will take on UConn.
Yep.
And I think UConn at Stores wins this game, and then they go on, I agree with you, to Ohio State. What do you have after that?
I've got them going all the way. Who's your Final Four for the women?
Well, my Final Four for the women, UConn in there, South Carolina from the one of the Greenville sites.
Yep.
I really didn't finish the Greenville 2 to my liking, but I am going to go with a little bit of more Pac-12 prejudice. I'm going to throw Utah in there, the 2 seed, because I think might be the weakest overall region. That's the Greenville 2 and the Seattle 4. I like Stanford, and Stanford obviously a power year. It's not a Pac-12 prejudice. They're a power year in and year out. They've got size. They've got experience. They're there all the time. But I think UConn gets to the Final Four. I think UConn and South Carolina again match up. And unfortunately, I think it's South Carolina that beats the Huskies.
Yeah, I've got UConn playing LSU. Kim Mulkey's got that team playing. Look at the 4 coaches if it goes that way. UConn, LSU, South Carolina, Stanford are my Final Four. You got legendary coaches already in those 4 teams, and coaching makes a big difference. You got to have players, but that would be my Final Four. And I also like Villanova to win a couple of games, getting through, and then going from there.
Sure. They've got the nation's leading scorer in Maddie Siegrist, and she scored 20 at least in every game this season.
You and I agree. I hate to say it, but South Carolina, until somebody beats them, I think they're the team that's going to win it all. But I like Utah going all the way for that Final Four and then the championship game in Dallas.
Hey, we're pretty close on the women. We're way apart on the men. We hope you have some fun, have a little luck, enjoy making up your brackets. Maybe you get a little financial production out of it, and enjoy the madness.
And just so you know, as far as both teams go, we go with them. You'll get to see everything right here on Channel 3.